for sticking with us, everyone. I know it's been a packed-in few days, but I promise these last few are definitely worth waiting for, and they always say saving the best to last. So, in this session, we will be learning about using API technology to reach customers in new ways. BPAY Group's developer portal and the launch of BPAY Payments API service is attracting interest from a diverse range of payment industry players. Learn how this collaborative initiative is creating solutions to support a range of businesses and their unique customer needs. On our API panel today, we have Jonty, I'm going to definitely say this wrong, but Hirositz, CEO and co-founder of Deferit, Jared Baker, creator of shared payments platform Groupee, and Divya Sivakumar from Beem. Our moderator is John White, who recently launched the BPAY Payments API program. Thank you, guys.
Cool, thank you very much. Some die-hard fans or die-hard Fintech nerds still here at this time on the second day of a conference, so you're obviously really keen to hear this. So thank you for joining us. And we're here to talk about using API technology to reach customers in new ways. And before we sort of get into it, I want to sort of pose the question of so what and why does it matter? And we're full of a room full of Fintech nerds, as I said before. And many of you have had to use APIs to reach customers in new ways. And we're going to talk a lot about cooperation. I learned a new word in an earlier session from Don Pim from Up. I think it was co-opetition. So I've learned a few new words this conference. So that one I think has been a real theme of this conference. And yeah, we've got a group of people here that we're going to talk to today as well. And why it matters? Well, to achieve success, many of you and many of these people have had to reach customers in new ways. So talking about survival through to scale, they've had to reach customers in new and unique ways. So we're going to talk about that and how they've done that and learnt some stories. So as I said, my name's John White. I'm head of product at BPAY Group. And I want to ask another question of the audience to ponder before we sort of dig deep into the panel and what they have to say. But it's, what have you done differently? What has your business done differently to reach customers in new ways? So have a think about that as we go through the panel. Before we kick off, what brings us here today? Well, like many businesses here, and these businesses, they exist to solve a real problem in the market, a problem worth solving. And it is worth noting that problems change over time and needs change over time. So businesses need to evolve as well, and they're targeting new markets and new issues. In the BPAY world, I think if those of you who were in our roundtable earlier today, BPAY's been around 23 years, and the problem it was solving at the time was, well, does anyone remember lining up and paying a bill over the counter? No, so we've got a very youthful crowd, very good. But we solved that problem by starting off with phone banking. And if you remember IVR banking, putting the number in your phone, it seems pretty old school these days. Moving on to online banking and of course mobile banking. But even that all sounds old hat now. It's all hygiene and businesses have to have that as the base. So for BPAY to remain relevant and grow, it had to look for new customers and reach them in new ways. And we're going to talk to some of them today. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these businesses, but really collectively they're people that have leveraged APIs. They've got unique offerings in the bill payment space, and we're going to hear some of their stories. Cool. So I might just go along the line here first of all, but can you introduce yourself and tell the audience what the problem is you're solving and why it matters? So I might start with Divya from Beem.
Divya from Beem. So we're a digital wallet, essentially. I think we're mostly known as a peer-to-peer app. That's our primary proposition in market over the last couple of years, but the aspiration is to add use cases, particularly around everyday spend and the stickier categories of everyday spend, such as bill payment. So for us, we're still in the growth phase. We've got a pretty lean team, as many of you here do as well. And the opportunity for us and the problem that we were trying to solve was how do we start tapping into this new use case as we're verging into the consumer to business transaction types how do we leverage that opportunity in a way that offers us speed to scale and reach? I think the problem that we were trying to solve from a business perspective was if we did that on our own, trying to establish the direct relationships with each of these billers in the market, it would take us a long time to get to that tipping point of actually having a relevant solution that is going to be attractive to our users. And so it really just was a logical decision to partner with someone like BPAY, who's already got those established relationships, and it was just a pretty easy integration for us. And I guess on the consumer side, the problem we're trying to solve was to add some more confidence in the bill payment experience. We did quite a bit of research, and there's nothing inherently broken with it. There's many ways to pay. I guess you could still go over the counter today, but there are certainly quite a few pain points for particularly the age demographic that we have in our user base, which is millennial, around the anxiety of bill payment, understanding, when is the money actually going to be paid to the biller, am I paying the right person, etc. So it made sense to then look at BPAY's API suite and leverage those, and BPAY also being quite a familiar brand to that audience really helped to solve that problem. Might have actually talked about the solution and the problem, not just the problem, but
that's fine. That's why we bring you up on stage. But Jonty, what do you think from Deferit?
Well, so just an introduction. Hi everyone, I'm Jonty, Hirositz from Deferit. So in terms of the problem we're trying to solve as a business, basically our product is a bill budgeting platform which helps consumers pay their bills in installments over time. I guess the interesting thing, a lot of people will say to me, why do people need that? It's just a reality of the society we live in today. Most Australians, I think the statistic is about 65% of Australians live paycheck to paycheck, and so they really struggle to budget and pay for their bills on time, and that's what we're really trying to solve and help for.
Awesome. And who are you solving for?
Well, our customers predominantly, it's slightly older than, so there is elements of our business being somewhat of a resemblance to a buy now, pay later product because of the installment method. Roughly, we have an older skew, so it's roughly about ages 30 to 50 is our demographic, and there's about a 70% female skew. So it's the end consumer, and it seems to be predominantly females who are in charge of the budgeting, which is who our products attract in.
Awesome, thanks, Jonty. And Jared, do you want to introduce yourself and talk about the problem you're solving and why it matters?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Jared from Groupee. So we are an instant shared payment platform. And so the concept is we felt that there was a real opportunity to provide an opportunity for multiple people to share the cost of any purchase in real time and remove the need for a pre or post transaction with their friends. So the idea is that if you need to pay someone back, you would use a peer-to-peer platform. If you wanted to pay together, you would use Groupee to do that. So we issue a prepaid reloadable debit card to all of our users, which becomes their vessel for payment, and it means that they can, split meals or holidays or within their house. And the most recent addition to our product is obviously the integration that we've made with BPAY, which means that people can instantly share their utilities in house share situations, which has been really exciting for us.
Cool. So sort of share households, and that's your target market there, is it?
Yeah, correct.
Cool. Very exciting. Cool. Thank you for that. And I kind of want to go back a little bit to your launch process, and obviously you have to leverage a number of vendors and partners, and I'd love to hear some stories around sort of how simple it was, what were some of the challenges that you may have faced, and some of the alternatives you might have looked at. There's been a lot of talk on this conference about build by partner. But yeah, some thoughts on reflecting back on your product launch or business launch. Divya, do you want to start?
I think it was a pretty straightforward integration for us. I don't think we experienced many issues at all on the API side. I think probably the challenge for us was it was either our first or our second ever integration with an external API. So everything prior to this had been in-house. And it was pretty easy, really. I think really helped that the BPAY team were pretty responsive to us. I think we're very lucky to have a lot of flexibility. So we even had some of that orientation content given to us a bit earlier to help inform the design rather than trying to retrofit back to scheme rules and requirements after the fact. So yeah, I think on the whole the team found it quite easy.
Cool. And how about you, Jonty? And not necessarily limited to BPAY, other partners. How was the integration process? Looking back, what would you perhaps do differently?
It's a good question. I think for us, the way we looked at it is how do you define the customer experience? And then based off that customer experience, we worked back and looked at the integrations. On the bill front, the consumer experience we have, we just wanted the customer to take a picture of the bill, and then everything's taken care of for them in the back end. The BPAY API was obviously used for us to help validate that payment option and make sure that if we tell the customer we're going to pay that bill, we have the capability to pay the bill. There's all the other vendors you need to worry about, which the hardest bit I think of starting a business is taking it from scratch. And also educating yourself on all the vendors like payment gateways, cloud storage, everything. And so it's a process doing things differently. I think the one thing we did well, which and it was probably just from like a naivety perspective, we went very quickly and we built things very badly, but that enabled us. Our product at day one was it's a very different product to what it is today. And so probably not something we'd do differently, but something I highly recommend is to try and build your MVP and keep it super simple, and then just get the feedback and see how users are interacting with that. And then based off that, if you need to add more integrations or more functionality, you can kind of develop it from there.
Yeah, cool. And I've heard before that if you're not embarrassed by your first launch and your MVP, then you've launched too late. So I think that I can definitely agree with that. And Jared, from your perspective, going back to your launch and some of the vendors and partners you've worked with, again, how simple was it? What were some of the key challenges? Again, what alternatives did you consider when you were launching?
Yeah, well, we launched, I would say, we were on the cusp of launching formally just before the COVID hit. And what it did was it sort of took a lot of our key use cases out of market, given that our whole proposition is around people sharing experiences and getting out and doing things. We weren't doing that, obviously, for quite a period of time. So I guess one of the most obvious use cases for us was the home and looking at how people were interacting with money in that context. And so it was an obvious fit for us to pursue the BPAY thing, and it sort of just meant that our product roadmap caught the wave of when you guys were releasing your new tech. So it made complete sense from a partnership perspective to solve this problem. BPAY was an obvious choice just because you've sort of done all the heavy lifting, you've got the network there, and we can benefit from that by providing something in a similar way that the prepaid MasterCard that we issue to our customers makes us ubiquitous. You can use it anywhere, there's no need to sign up merchants. Having something like BPAY means we get every biller instantly, and that was very attractive.
Yeah, cool. Well, even in COVID, you still got to pay your electricity bill, don't you? So, yeah, good choice there, mate. And the other thing I just might quickly reflect on is it does sound like most of your businesses do target millennials. So for BPAY, that's been, it's an area where we've been able to unlock by dealing with these types of businesses. Why millennials, and what do you see the future for them, as they grow up and, leave home and have a family? What do you think? I'll start with you, Jared. Just what do you think the future is for millennials and using your technology?
Yeah, I think that technology is the most exciting changes to technology for millennials has happened in the last few years, and we're looking at many different ways for people, in the context of us, to spend our own money. There's so many different options that are out there. I think looking at the way that Groupee works for our customers was about creating a solution for that reflected the complexity of how they spent their own money. And so if you look at 2021, I can think of in the last 5 days, 15 instances where I've paid for something with someone else, whether it be buying event tickets or going to dinner with someone or booking an Airbnb for a road trip. There's just so many instances where we want to pay with others and not for them. So I think that what our mission is to create a product out there which helps people manage their own money and participate in the context of a larger purchase without any angst.
Cool. And Jonty, from your perspective, there's plenty of payment options out there. You've integrated with BPAY for bills. First of all, how have you made bill payments sexy? And second of all, do you agree with that statement?
I think bill payments will never be as sexy as a buy now, pay later provider, and I don't think it needs to be. I think if you look at the category and what it's doing, when anyone gets a bill, no one really wants to pay it, right? And so what you need to cater for is you want to make that experience as enjoyable as possible, but it's a non-discretionary expense and people have to part with it from their wallet. And so I think the core ingredient is to not try and make it sexy or too sexy. Obviously, when you dress your product up, you want to present it and make it streamlined. You want to have a good user experience. You want to have a sexy experience for the customer. But the inherent nature of the category is it's very functional, and you need to, in our view at least, is how do you actually just solve for we're very focused. The one single problem we want to solve for our customers is helping them with their cash flow and paying their bills on time. And yeah, obviously the integrations help and they facilitate that and they help our business function in the back end, which is basically what keeps it going.
Cool. And Divya, from Beemit's perspective, you've chosen to put BPAY or bill payment into your app. What differentiates you from other payment choices out there?
So we haven't actually transformed the process of paying a bill or even how BPAY processes a payment. We haven't touched that at all. We've focused on solving some of those anxiety points in the pre-payment stage, which is what we kind of found in research was the opportunity for us. So a couple of key ones being in the process of paying a BPAY bill, which is for many millennials, the key way that they like to pay and the way that they're familiar with. Just punching in all those digits and hoping it's going to the right person is a source of anxiety for people in this segment. They're not necessarily cash rich that they can put it on a debit card or a credit card and have a monthly deduction there. They're a segment that need to make sure that they're paying the right amount at the right time when it suits them. So using some of those APIs, we've been able to provide some more confidence by validating that, yes, you're paying the right amount, it's going to the right biller, it's the right name of the biller and your CRN and everything else is correct. We've also added, it's just basic additional information in that process to let them know this is the date that your bill will be paid, rather than just giving them some legal text and a formula to work it out themselves. So it's simple things like that. And I think on top of all of that, the fact that we've integrated it into a wallet, I think, is quite differentiated. So particularly within the millennial segment, there's a lot of cherry picking. There's a lot less brand loyalty for that age group. So they tend to have different accounts for different purposes and to pay different bills with different accounts as well. So as a wallet, we can provide that choice and flexibility, which is convenient as well. And also as a wallet that started in social payments with peer-to-peer, it's a pretty seamless experience that we've leveraged for bill payment as well, and the integration back into splitting the bill and sharing it with a group is a seamless end-to-end flow.
Cool. And talking about building, launching, and scaling the product, you're all scale-ups. You're all, some great numbers coming through your business. When designing your products, what are your design principles and what's your non-negotiables? And Divya, do you want to start with that one?
I mean, I'm afraid I'm going to sound incredibly cliched here, but it's user first. I don't think that's going to be foreign to anyone here. So I think unless we're adding incremental convenience or enriching the value for users, and there are a lot of micro moments like I've just showed as an example to do so. But unless we're solving those problems, then it's not really worth doing. We're not differentiating. And I think the user experience of Beem has been established as something that is incredibly quick and easy and takes out a lot of the friction. So we aim to make every new feature and experience that we add into the wallet follow those principles too.
Cool. And Jonty, design principles for you, non-negotiables?
My UI UX team's probably going to have a heart attack if they hear me answer this, but I think for us it's we have one thing that we just follow. There's obviously a lot of factors you try and cater for that experience. The main thing that it's like, we call it our North Star, is simplicity. So whatever we try and build, we don't try and have too much graphics or too many functions or features going on. The main thing we want to do is just have a very simple experience and functional. So that's our main design principle, which guides us in pretty much everything we do.
Yeah, very good. And how about you, Jared?
Yeah, I think we're the same. We're very much, it's got to be simple and it's got to be fast. I think often, given that you inevitably, through our traditional experience with Groupee, you pay with a Groupee card at the counter, we're that last branded experience between the customer and the purchase. So if things fall over and they're not working every time, that creates a trust issue between the customers. So I think from a design perspective, there's a lot of like flashy stuff that we probably baked into the earlier app that we ripped out because it may have looked good, but it didn't work well. And so, yeah, that simplicity, I think, is key for us as well.
Yeah, great. And I've heard this question asked a few times in a few different panels over this conference, but, what piece of advice would you give other fintechs or scale-ups looking to, launch or grow and scale? But I want to sort of pose the question again in regards to reaching new customers in new ways. So yeah, again, what advice would you give in that regard? And I might also open that question up a little bit to what advice would you give potential partners that you were looking to work with or maybe looking to work with you? Do you want to start that one, Jared?
Yeah, I think we were discussing before the panel that there's been quite a big shift in the openness to like the big guys coming to play with some of the entry players in market, and I think there's an optimism around the kind of win-win that can be created between both parties. Listening to one of the guys talking earlier from Snip talking about all of his challenges and the halo effect that occurred from his partnership with American Express, I can completely relate to that because there was a huge amount of credibility and trust that came with the partnership with BPAY, and we saw us winning new customers and growing our numbers and a huge increase as a result of that. So I think huge benefits to us as the as the emerging player, but it keeps the value exchange is that it keeps the partner innovative as well and can provide these exciting sort of overlay experiences to what their core product is and keeps them relevant as well.
Yeah, awesome. It's that credibility, but also adding additional value and unique value. So yeah, great. And Jonty?
Well, I guess there's two parts of the question. So the advice to someone, I think I've kind of touched upon it, which is when we launched the business, we just kept it very simple. It was actually a landing page where people would just come, and that was our initial step off to figure out whether we had a product which had product market fit. In terms of attracting partners and what you should what to look for there, I think the principle we look for is, and it's got to be more of a win-win for both parties. So for a partnership to work, both parties need to get something out of it. I do definitely see a trend with the more established companies looking to work with fintechs nowadays. And I think the reason behind that is it's more of a bolt-on to their existing solution or infrastructure, and so it brings more value to their product or network, and it obviously brings distribution for that bolt-on. And so it's just a function of the ecosystem and how it's functioning now. But yeah, I think it's dictated by, it's going to be a win-win for both.
Yeah, so it's sort of growing the pie, not necessarily just eating the pie. And Divya, from your perspective, what advice would you give others looking to grow, scale, but also potential partners?
I think partnership is the advice I'd have to grow scale. I mean, Beem, it's always had sort of pretty good backing since the start, but we can't grow at the scale that we want to just by ourselves. We're very open to partnership. We will assess every opportunity, every feature on our roadmap on a case-by-case basis and just see which partners are available. And it's very similar principles that we want to grow with our partners as we evolve our offering into more of the end state, fully function wallet. So we're open to working with fintechs, with larger organisations like BPAY. It really comes down to who's best placed to meet the need and how can we deliver to the opportunity in the most efficient way that is hopefully differentiated as well.
Awesome. And I think that, again, that's the theme of this conference is you can't go it alone. You've got to look for partnerships and it's got to be win-win. So it's been really great having you guys join us on this panel today. I do want to open up for questions for anyone here, but again, on that theme of trying to find new customers in new ways, I think we've talked about leveraging tools from others to be able to reach new markets. We've talked about how you can reach millennials with new value-added services and new niches, which you know, I always say banks are always going to be there, but it's these types of businesses that are going to provide something innovative and new in regards to paying bills. So leaving it at that, I'm just going to say, you know, we've talked a lot about the so what, and we've heard some stories today. So I just want you to have a little think about the what now and now what, and what are you going to do differently from what you've heard today from this panel. So on that note, yeah, thank the panel, but I'd love to take some questions.
My question's surrounding around documentation on third-party APIs and the challenges that you faced when you had to actually integrate those APIs, and what sort of key learnings that you had from that.
Who wants that?
Can I just clarify? So it's when we want to connect to someone else and they have third-party API documentation, or
Yeah, what challenges you faced when having to use a third-party API at the integration stage? So learning how the API works and those sort of elements.
I'm happy to take it. Yeah, I think the challenge is obviously you need to get your head around the documentation and see you have the capability to build it out. I find it very much depends, from my conversations with our tech team, it very much depends on that third party's documentation and how well they've set up the API and how they built it. And that really dictates how easy it is to integrate. And obviously this is a BPAY one that we've been talking about, but I think we were able to integrate into it in one day. And that's just because it was very well laid out and super simple. So it really does come down to that third party and how they develop it.
Thank you. Any more questions there for the panel? No, I think that's it.
Thank you so much to the panel. Yeah, you can feel free to head down.
Thanks so much.